Good evening, and welcome to the second episode of the Too Many Voices podcast. I'm your host, John J. Laughlin, and it is April the 28th, 2023. Hope everyone is having or had a beautiful day. It's a beautiful spring day where I live now, and very grateful for that after being stuck in the snow for more or less 3 months out in northern Arizona. And glad I don't have to put up with that right now. So anyhow, all right, so let's get down to business. For those of you that are just tuning into this podcast, this podcast is going to be quite prolific. Going to cover quite a few topics throughout these podcasts. First and foremost, I am a recovering alcoholic and drug addict, so I will be discussing addiction issues at great length. As well as spiritual awakening, the spiritual path, various spiritual paths one can take in life. I first went through my spiritual awakening back in 2019, right at New Year's, and it was the most intense, beautiful experience of my life. It still has not stopped. The last 4 years have been very interesting, and that's an understatement, man. I mean, when you really feel that tap into the divine and feel that unconditional love of the divine, your life is never going to be the same, man. And it hasn't been for me. It's been quite a journey, and I am grateful for every experience that has brought me to this point in my life. All right. So I will also be discussing plant medicines, psychedelics. I was in the cannabis industry for most of my life. I spent 10 years in California in the legal market, the permitted industry. I am no longer in that industry. I don't know, man. For me, it's always been a very sacred medicinal plant. And, I don't know. I mean, I worked with some great groups in California. But it is very, very ego-driven, And I had another calling coming in anyway about my life. But that being said, it is a wonderful, beautiful medicinal plant. It's great for spiritual growth. And I will be discussing, how to use cannabis in a spiritual matter and for self-growth rather than, taking 50 bong rips a day, which, I was there. Okay? Don't get me wrong now. I spent many, many days where all I do is just rip that bong, but I still got shit done. So anyhow, I will also be discussing psychedelics, psilocybin, LSD, ketamine, etc. And they've been, especially the psilocybin and LSD have been a huge healing modality for me, especially in my battle against alcoholism. And we'll get into the history of all that in later podcasts. I will also be discussing occult knowledge, both the light and the dark. So this is where I probably lose people, man. Our world, the people in charge, I would have to guess, 90%, 99%, or, they're involved in some type of dark occult society. Just saying. This came to the surface for me right after my spiritual awakening and discovered a man named Mark Passio. Markpassio, Mark Passio. Mark was a high priest in the Levan Satanic Church for a good number of years. According to him, he performed a ritual outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland at some mansion. And again, according to him, he said that most of the attendants had something to do with U.S. government. Okay, worked in government in some shape, way, or form. Well, this kind of piqued his interest, and he, went a little deeper and discovered a very dark, sinister agenda. It's a battle for consciousness, and this battle has been raging for thousands of years, man. That's why Christ was crucified. He was promoting Christ consciousness, or consciousness of the light. And, the powers that be don't want people becoming awakened and discovering who they truly are at their soul's core and following their divine life path and not being little sheep. So, okay, there's that. All right. Tonight's episode, the topic is the dark night of the soul. And I'm going to give you my take on it, what I went through, my experience with my own dark night of the soul. And looking back on it, I feel like I've gone through a few of these, but it was not as intense as the dark night of the soul that I went through shortly after my spiritual awakening, which was triggered by my twin flame. And yeah, if you're listening to this and are a twin flame, you've probably gone through this, and it can be intense, man. And a lot of people have misconceptions about what the twin flame journey really is and what it's about. We'll get into that too in a later podcast. That is too much for this one. I would be all over the place. But anyway, so my dark night of the soul. So, St. John of the Cross wrote a poem about this. I think it was around 1577, somewhere around there, 16th century. And, and he was a devout man of God. And, I guess he just woke up one day and just felt completely cut off from source. That was the most horrible feeling for me in my dark night of the soul. You're going through the spiritual awakening, you're hearing your spirit guides, and, just going through this amazing process of self-realization and self-development. And then all of a sudden, it is like God's not there right now, It was very disheartening. But it's all a part of the process. It's like, okay, you're learning all these things about yourself, and God and your spirit guides, they just kind of take a step back. And okay, it's like throwing you in the deep end of the pool without your water wings on when you're a kid, So that's what it felt like to me. And so anyway, they take a step back and just kind of like, all right, go. Let's see what you've learned. And I have to admit, I struggled through my dark night of the soul. I relapsed horribly into alcohol and just had no clue what was going on with me or which way to go. But a big part of the dark night of the soul is very, very deep healing. It's going to bring every unhealed emotional wound and trauma you ever went through to the surface to be looked at, examined, and healed. And so, I hadn't seen my parents in 4 years because there was a lot of unhealed stuff there, that I hadn't let go of. So I ended up, leaving California, rambling across the country, and pretty much arrived at my parents' doorstep, pissed drunk, and yeah, it was horrendous. Needless to say, I ended up getting through it. I don't know if I came out with grace or not, but that's what they say when you go through the dark night of the soul. Come out of it with grace. Okay. But what that really means is discovering your true life path and stepping into your true authenticity and your true purpose in life. What is your soul's blueprint? Why did you incarnate during this lifetime? And what mission are you here to complete? And for me, a big part of it is this podcast, as well as my other gifts that I am now learning how to hone in and utilize to help other people and myself. That's really, in a nutshell, kind of what the Dark Night Soul is about. At least it was for me. It's a very, very important process in your spiritual development and the development of your intellect. I went through a full-on, very intense ego death right after this Dark Night of the Soul was triggered. The ego death, that's that can be a pile of fuck shit too. So, when it happened to me, I'm in the shower one day, and I get out and I look in the mirror, and I look at myself and just like, seriously, I was like, who the fuck are you? I'm like, I don't know. Well, fuck. So, at the time I had hair down past my shoulders and, a long, thick beard. Well, I ended up going to the barbershop that day, had my hair chopped, clean shaven, and just fuck. That, but that was because I wasn't accepting myself fully who I truly was, man. I had a good idea of, like, who I am, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, that happened. That stripped all that away. And so I basically spent the last 2 years regaining my sense of self and who I truly am at my soul's core. And, it's been amazing, honestly. As hard as that process was to get through, looking back on it, it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my life. Just like meeting my twin flame, which, we'll get into the whole thing about twin flames in later podcasts. I really try not to label it anymore. I just had a recent, very intense experience with another high-level soulmate / twin flame. Now, people say, common knowledge of twin flames is that you can only have one. And then I've heard other people recently who have a good grasp on the subject saying, oh, no, you can have more than one twin flame. Whatever, man. It was like the same phenomena with this person. Very deep telepathic communication, feeling each other's emotions, mirroring each other. And, yeah, that triggered another dark night of the soul as well, but not as intense as that first one. The first one, I did a lot of work on myself and stripped away a lot of what was not serving me anymore. And, yeah, anyway, it's all part of the journey, man. But in order if you've gone through a spiritual awakening, a big part of that is following your intuition. And that's a big part of the dark night of the soul, too. Because, like I said, communication is more or less cut off. That's an illusion. God's always there for you. And, don't quit doing your meditations and prayers. But more or less, you're left there to follow your intuition. Let your intuition guide you. And I definitely ignored it in my past a lot of times. But not anymore. I pull tarot cards now, and tarot is a great tool to use to help one strengthen their intuition and what's in your energy and so forth and so on. But anyway, the dark night of the soul is no joke, man. It's properly named. That is the perfect name for it. I think other people who aren't spiritually enlightened, I guess you could say, they call it a midlife crisis. Kind of the same thing. Not really. But there is that aspect of it to where you kind of look around your environment like, what the fuck am I doing with my life right now, man? This isn't working for me anymore. And that's what happened to me. I was growing cannabis in California, and, I ran into my twin flame one day at the grocery store where we had originally met. And just from eye contact, it triggered all this, right? Well, 2 days later, I'm, at the place where I work, it was an indoor grow in a warehouse, and I'm looking around, all of a sudden, all of this trauma, that from my childhood just came rushing to the surface, man, like a freight train, and I just hit the floor, fetal position, bawling, purging. Okay, this soul purge went on a good week, I just screaming and letting all this shit just come out of me. And that's a big part of it too, man. With this mass awakening going on across the planet right now, people are being forced, on a subconscious level, to purge all this shit, especially during Mercury retrograde. Now, this Mercury retrograde that's happening right now hasn't really affected me really that bad at all because I purged a lot of this shit already. And that's kind of what Mercury retrograde does. You'll find yourself, at least for me in the past, all of a sudden you're just fucking pissed off at what? Who the fuck knows? Probably something that happened when I was 10, you know what I mean? And but it hasn't been that bad this go around. So it's all about doing the inner work, and that's what the dark night of the soul will throw in your face too. And for me, I had a lot of deep inner work to do on myself. That inner child work is critical for self-healing. And before my spiritual awakening, other than my martial arts training, I was not living a very spiritual path, man. It was back and forth, the alcohol and the cocaine, pills, whatever the fuck. And had really no sense of myself or what I was doing. Honestly, looking back on it, I was lost, man. Completely lost. And the dark night of the soul, it's like a big pimp slap from the universe to get your ass back on the path, man. And that's kind of what happened recently, a few months ago with this other experience that I went through with this high-level soulmate. And because I was toggling, you know what I mean? 1 foot in, 1 foot out type thing. And but now, after this experience, it was like, God was like, no, you need to be 100% dedicated and surrender to this path. This is what you are here to do. So it's all, it's all for a higher purpose. And that's the way you have to look at it. And, when you're going through a dark night of the soul, higher perspective, it's all happening for you, okay? Not against you. And you hear that repeated a lot in the spiritual community, for this path. Everything that you're going through, tower moments, whatever, it's all happening for you. And tower moments, people get really freaked out about that card in tarot, but it just means, breaking new ground and change, whether good or, bad. Like a really good thing, like a new relationship, coming in. It could be a very beautiful thing, but very disruptive as well. It's going to force you to give up certain things in your life that probably need to go anyway, in order to work with another person and build a foundation with each other. That would be very disruptive for someone like me. I'm very introverted. I've been on my own for a very long time. But anyway, it's another story. But anyway, oh man, what else can I say about the Dark Night of the Soul? Even looking back on it, trying to put the pieces together, that whole process is very, very difficult to articulate. Just like it's very difficult to articulate a spiritual awakening. Luckily I do have one or two people that have gone through it. I can kind of bounce things off of them. But bear in mind, your spiritual awakening is for you. Okay, that's your journey, no one else's. And I would highly recommend, if you've gone through a spiritual awakening, especially if you're a twin flame or have a high level soul connection in your life, keep that shit on the wraps, man. All right, don't put it out there. If you're a twin, I don't give a fuck how kind and people are to your face. That shit, people will, envious, jealousy like you've never seen, man. Because that is the ultimate gift from God, okay? And, I had to walk away from it. Why? Because I was drinking, and there was a huge age difference between me and this woman, my twin. I was 40 when I met her. She was 21. And, I know me pretty good, especially, when I'm hitting that fucking booze. I wasn't about to bring that bullshit into her life, man. And so, anyway, I had to walk away from that. I had to walk away from this one as well for different reasons. But again, I'm grateful for all these experiences. The more that I've gone through these experiences, the more I learn about myself, the more I learn about what path, the path that I'm on, what God wants me to do, with my gifts. And it's been amazing. It really has. And I'm, just putting it out there, man. There are people who they don't make it through the dark night of the soul. It gets too dark. You know what I'm saying? Like they go all the way in a bad way. And so if you are going through this, hang in there. You will get through it. Do your prayers and meditations every day. Okay, God did not abandon you. Okay, unless you abandon yourself. God will not abandon you. Just got to keep your nose to the grindstone and do the work, man. Okay, this path ain't easy. Following the spiritual path, doing what God wants you to do, it is not easy. You will be put through tests and trials, tribulations. It's all a part of it. And it's all to toughen you up. Really, it's a journey of self-discovery, becoming a fully self-actualized, divine spiritual being. It's going to these processes like the dark night of the soul, the awakening itself, doing the shadow work, it's just going to let you, give you some insights as to how tough and resilient you really are. And I'll tell you, man, the work I've done on myself, to work through some of my bullshit, nobody, not too many people I know would put themselves through what I've done. One of the martial arts systems that I train in, it's Russian. And one of the things we do, we lay people down, on their belly, and we take the Cossack whip. It's a very short, thick leather whip. And we just start going slow at first, along the back and legs. And then we really lay the fuck in there, man. Your body is one big tape recorder. Okay? All the traumas, everything you've been through is in your muscle. It's in your body being stored at the cellular level. Well, doing these whip sessions, it releases all of that shit. It's excruciatingly painful. But afterwards, you feel like Gumby, completely relaxed. All that tension is gone. And the first couple of sessions that I did, 2 weeks later, I would be in the grocery store and all of a sudden just start crying. I would have to put my shit down and go outside and breathe it out. You know, so that's the type of work that I'm talking about. You know, I mean, you don't have to do that. You know, if you let a 300-pound Russian beat the shit out of you with a whip is your thing, like it is me, go for it. But, you know, for you and me, I don't know, maybe talk therapy, you know, whatever works for you. Find what works for you, you know, to really work through this stuff. And this is, you know, this is the type of work people don't want to do with themselves. You know, during my dark night of the soul, yeah, I was drinking heavily, but I would also do the mirror work and sit down with a mirror in front of me and just ask myself, you know, okay, self, what the fuck? What do I need to do? What needs to go? What needs to stay? And your higher self will give you the answers. It's a pretty amazing process, but it's going to require you to more or less rip yourself apart from the inside out, you know, mental, spiritual sense, and really dig deep to find these answers about yourself. But it's worth it. Okay, you will discover a gold mine of information about yourself and your life, your path. And the dark night of the soul is a big part of that. It really is, man. Like, you really don't have a choice, you know? Going through that dark night of the soul, you don't. I mean, you do have a choice. You can either choose to do the work or not and just be fucking miserable, or go ahead, do the hard work, and heal yourself. The only person that can heal you is you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've done talk therapy in the past and all that bullshit. It's not bullshit, but it's not my thing, man. You know, your healing is really on you. And there's really no excuses nowadays not to do the work on yourself unless it's just, you know, if you're just a complete narcissist and fucking lazy, you know. So, other than that, there are no excuses not to do the work on yourself. And it's everyday work, you know. I mean, you know, I'm always healing, you know. Have I healed, past tense, certain things about myself? Absolutely. But you are always in a state of healing. It's lifelong work. And anybody that comes to you and says, oh, I'm healed, they're probably full of fucking shit. And I heard a woman that I listened to on YouTube recently, she said it, until, you know, you aren't triggered by anything, you're still healing. You haven't healed. Because, I'm triggered daily. Okay? I mean, I have to train in my martial arts daily. I have to pray and meditate daily. Because I'm triggered like a motherfucker. About a lot of dumb shit, too. You know, I still have that, man. Like, some dumb shit just gets to me. I don't react as bad as I used to, for sure. And this recent experience that I had, a whole pack of fuckhead narcissists that I was dealing with from this recent experience I had with this high-level soulmate. That's another podcast. I will get into that incident. But yeah, man, I mean, these people were trying to push my buttons and make me react. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm twice your fucking ages, man. Like, no, I don't have time for this bullshit. You know, like a bunch of fucking children, man. You know, I just like to tell them, you know, yeah, you're fucking childish. Go play in your sandbox. Build your sandcastles. And then maybe a stray dog will come along and piss on your sandcastles. And go home and get that ass whipping your mom and daddy never gave you. Okay, that's enough. That's all I got to say about that incident right now. But you see where I'm going with this. And if any of you have ever dealt with a narcissist, yeah, you definitely know what I'm talking about. So, all right, I'm gonna end that there. I'm digressing. Probably digressed a little bit. I apologize. But yeah, the dark night of the soul. It's exactly how it sounds. But again, hang in there. You know, you're tougher and more resilient than you think you are. Trust me. And enjoy it. Enjoy the dark night of the soul if you can. Feeling completely disconnected from everything, everybody. Basically having your entire paradigm of what you thought this 3D reality is, who you are, were, and what you're here to do. That's really what it is. That's really what the dark night of the soul is. It's basically like a reset button on you. You know, it's like hitting the reset button in a very painful way. You know, clearing all that garbage out, man. You know, it's like unclogging a shitty toilet. All right, that's probably a bad metaphor, but it's kind of what it is, man. You're clogged up with shit that needs to get flushed out, man. Yeah, a bunch of mental and spiritual garbage. Well, you're clearing out the mental garbage and freeing, cleansing out your soul is what's going on, man. You're just to do a deep soul cleansing and flush that shit out, and then fill your soul back up with love and light. That's really what it's about, man. Okay, that's what the dark night of the soul, for me, looking back on it, that's what it's about. Flushing the shit out of your soul and mind, and then refilling yourself with love and light and healing. Okay, that's what it is, man. And it is a tough process. I mean, there are some people, they're in the dark night of the soul for 20 fucking years, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, for some people, it does last that long. For me, I'm just coming out of it. Honestly, that was 2 years, man. But again, I mean, your progress to get through it all depends on you. How much work are you willing to do on yourself? And it's daily work, man. I mean, once you start falling off, man, that's when the demons come back and you're doing fuck shit again. Whether it's relapsing into alcohol. I mean, I did. Fuck, man, I'm not here to bullshit anybody. I'm preaching this shit because I lived through it, man. So it's all on you. Your healing is up to you. All right. I think I'm going to end the dark night of the soul on that one. So let's talk about the soul for a little bit. There are many definitions of what the soul is out there. I mean, for me, I read the Nag Hammadi a lot. There's a chapter called the Exegesis of the Soul. And for me, I mean, the soul is energy, man. The soul is that piece of the raw God force, life force energy, stardust, the creator energy that was put into you before you incarnated on this planet. You are the soul in this human body. And so you need to start looking at yourselves that way. You're not a walking, talking bag of meat and bones. You are the soul encapsulated in this, human vessel. You're here as a reflection of the Creator. You are here to create. And what you need to create in your life, your soul will tell to you, and your heart. Heart-based consciousness. That's where the soul ties in with that too, man. Your soul is kind of like giving your heart the emotions about what you need to do. Then that goes into the brain. Unfortunately, nowadays, and speaking from experience, your ego likes to take over, and then your mind starts going 900 million miles a fucking hour. And you're like, no, but I want to do this. And fuck that. Your soul wants you to do this, and you'll be much happier. And there can, you may have a soul calling that you really don't like to do. But, you got to put God above that. This is what God wants you to do, whatever that is, man. I'm called to teach martial arts and do this podcast. And, pull tarot readings for people, because I have those psychic gifts. And, I'm very empathic. I'm here to help people heal. So, and other people are called to be musicians or whatever the case may be, an artist. And it's all about, sharing your gifts with the world, sharing your divinely given gifts with the world, your soul gifts. The soul is everything, man. It's like the nucleus of an atom. It contains all the information to make everything else around it function properly. But now, like in my case, if you drown your soul with alcohol and cocaine, then you got a little a glitch in the program, a wrench in the spokes, man. So, oh man, I go on forever about this. Yeah, you are the soul. You are that piece of raw God force energy here to do a job, and it's up to you to do that job. I would recommend not resisting and step into your soul path with both feet. And, go for it, man. Get rid of all that bullshit, fear, shame, and guilt that you might be carrying around that's holding you back. And this is where, the dark night of the soul and doing the shadow work will really help you rip, peel back those layers. And, the dark night of the soul is almost like you're an onion, right? You're the onion. And then the universe is coming in to, chop you up and peel you open. To get down to the core of who you are, which is the soul. And so do soul stuff, man. Get out there, walk in nature, whatever. Do some yoga, some Tai Chi. I mean, I think there's a martial art for everybody. You never hear martial arts really recommended in the spiritual community too much. Everybody recommends yoga. Well, guess what? Yoga is the backbone of all martial arts. It all came out of India. Just saying. But anyhow, yeah, find something that works for you. Read good books that feed your soul with love and light. Hang around people that feed your soul with love and light. For me, try every activity you engage in, try to focus on that soul growth with that activity. Is this feeding me or taking away from me? And it might be some shit fuck ass job you're in, some bullshit 9 to 5. Yeah, we all got bills to pay. But you know what? You can always find another job. You are not trapped. Okay? You have free will. And use that free will in a good way. Choose a better job that suits you. And, find something that works for your time so you can focus on yourself. Your self-healing, self-love, and health of your soul and mind, the health of your mind, are the most important things. Body, mind, spirit, in that order. And exactly in that order. You got to have a healthy body to have a healthy mind, and a healthy mind to have a healthy spirit. Okay, I think I'm going to end it there. Anyway, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. And, by the way, so going back to Mark Passio, his website is called What on Earth is Happening. He has a fantastic podcast. Mark is a wealth of information on the occult. And just an amazing person. He has really brought a lot of information to light that once people thought was a conspiracy. And anyway, check him out if you have time. And I will catch you on the next podcast. All right, everybody. Love each other and love yourselves. Have a good one.